Now the essence of this fly is trying to keep the weight down and spreading what weight it does have out in the water as much as we can, so it flies like a kite. So to that end I'm using quite a small hook compared to what most people would use, and that's a 3/0 hook, O'Shaughnessy bend, not a lot of weight to it, perfect for this job. Load all the materials we need, and as you'll see in a bit when the fly's finished, none of it clouds the hook point. So anyway, as we start, same as normal. And you want to come back almost as far as the point. When your thread hangs down like that, you can see it's almost level with the point of the hook. Tag off the excess, big bunch of varnish, same as always, final overcoat. Thoroughly coat the shank and all those little rippings you've put on there. Right, pearl UV, or opal UV as it's called these days. Don't want a lot of this. Now the way you prepare your materials is key in this fly. Take a full chunk off, strip out any loose fibres, get it roughly in the half and cut it in half. So you end up with two short bits. Now then, we just mess the ends up slightly on the first one, like that. Strip any loose fibres out, bend it over so it's roughly halfway, there we go. Put the first one around the hook shank like that. Pinch and loop one turn around it and pull tight. Take a few more turns like that, and then bend all of that back in a random sort of haphazard fashion. Forms a nice tail for the first portion of the fly. After this we won't be tying it on like that. There. Nicely bound on. Now the second portion, don't bother messing the ends up, just fold it in half, get it about roughly halfway. Now this time keep the fibres parallel to the hook shank. Pinch and loop again, pull tight. 5 turns around it. Pull the material over the other side. Again, keep it tight along the hook shank and bind over those ends. So you start to see, if I spin that over, you start to see what we're doing here. Right, we take another bunch of opal white, do the same thing. Again, about in half. This side of the hook shank. Round the other side. Pull tight. And as you can see, we're tying it in little bunches. More varnish, don't be frightened with the varnish, get some on there, slap it on. Halfway again. take it over the top like that and bind it down like that. That's my favourite way of doing it. Now we're going to use a bit of flash, bit of spectrum fibre. Don't want much, half a dozen strands will do. Fold her in the middle again and cut it off. Now you can tie all this in one piece if you like, but we'll stick with this. Again, down the side, pull the material across the top, bind it in there like that. So, second bunch. There we go, odd stray fibre like that. Now when I turn her over, you'll see what she's coming out like. It's this sort of kite effect we're after. Now, more varnish. Dab it right on there. Now we're going to use a bit of this stuff. This is slinky fibre, and this is a new one I've just got hold of. This is whitest white. Now we want a fair chunk of this. If you think of the thickness of the tail you want and halve it, because again we're going to be using my favourite method of folding over, that sort of thing. Again, pinched in the centre. Now this goes directly on top of the hook shank like that. Pinch and loop once more, bang. Now you put a few more turns on this stuff than you do with the other because it's very smooth, and if you don't put plenty of turns on, it can pull out. Straight over the original whipping like that, so that both halves of the fibre are bound together with no gaps. So there's the thickness of your tail. Okay. What I'm going to do is just make sure that that's all bound down nice and tightly, and then take the silk off the end down to the notch. You can see we've left ourselves a bit of a gap. Oops, there's a bit of crap stuck in the varnish there. Just get it on there, plenty of it. Use a bit of this, which is golden brown. This is slinky fibre, but it's got a slight crinkle to it, and it's a lovely golden mustard sort of colour. Just what we need for this fly. We don't want much of this at all. Probably 20 strands there, I would think, not much more. Again, remove it next to the tie so you've got a full 12 inches. Halve it again. Now this time you can lay both the strands together so you get a full bunch, and then mess the ends up just to give it a bit more life. Bend it in half, there we go, there's the midpoint, and now again we're tying it alongside the hook. So it's a pinch and loop into that gap which grabs it, over the top, tie it again.